Okay, I've got something exclusive to present to you now. It's a telephone interview that I did yesterday with Sonny Curtis, who was the guitar player with Buddy Holly and the Crickets back in the 50s. And before all you young guys and girls say, oh, that's old, you know what, man? You have to have respect for your rock and roll roots. Buddy Holly was one of the first rock and roll bands. There used to be a time, boys and girls, when there was no rock. There was no hanging out or leather jackets, anything. And these guys were innovators of what we call rock and roll today. Without them, we wouldn't be here, and that's for sure. And Sonny Curtis is the first guy to ever play the Stratocaster guitar on a rock and roll record. And Paul McCartney of the Beatles actually told him, you know, if it wouldn't have been for you guys, there wouldn't have been a Beatles. And that's the fact, man. And this guy is not only a talented guitar player, but he's a writer as well. We're going to go ahead and let you hear the interview. Like I said, it's taped, but it was from yesterday morning, and I present to you now Sonny Curtis. Here you go. Okay, joining me on the phone, the legendary original guitar player for with Buddy Holly. What's up, Sonny Curtis?
Not much. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great, man. Sitting here enjoying the crappy weather in Peoria, Illinois, man.
Oh, well, it's a little nicer down here in Tennessee.
Yeah, you're in Nashville. How is it down there today?
I'm right out of Nashville. It's a little overcast right now, and it looks like it might rain, but it's nice and pleasant temperature-wise.
Yes, it's the weather with Sonny Curtis. Hey,
what else is there to talk about?
Hey, exactly, man. Thanks for giving me some of your time for the church.
No problem. Glad to do it.
I'd like to ask you this. I know you guys are from Texas originally. How did you meet Buddy Holly originally?
Well, a friend of mine moved from Meadow, Texas. That's about 30 miles south of Lubbock, up to Lubbock, and he would come back on the weekends and tell me about these two guys, Bob Montgomery and Buddy Holly, and said I just had to meet him. So we went up there one day, and he took me over and introduced me to him.
Okay, what year was that?
That would have been, we were in high school, I think it was 1953.
Okay, was Buddy Holly writing songs at that point?
Not to my knowledge. That came later for all of us.
Oh, okay. One question I want to know, because we've all seen the documentaries and we've all read the books. What was Buddy Holly really like?
Well, he was a nice guy. He was an exciting friend. Really exciting to hang around with. And he had a real good sense of humor, kind of a weird sense of humor, but and he was very, very confident. He thought he was sure he was going to make it. I asked him one time, I said, Buddy, we weren't making much money. And I said, how long is it going to take for us to start making it, man? And he said, well, just think of how long it took Elvis.
And speaking of Elvis, you got to open up for Elvis before he became known as this huge legend.
When I was playing lead guitar with Buddy, we opened the show a couple of times in Lubbock for Elvis. Because the local radio station owner, Dave Stone, that promoted those shows, he used to use local talent, because he didn't have to pay us much. As a matter of fact, the first time Elvis came to Lubbock, he didn't have to pay him very much. He paid him $75. That was $25 apiece for him and Scotty and Bill.
Man, that's a whole lifetime away from that Las Vegas money he was making later, huh?
Oh, really, exactly. And something else that's interesting is that he even did a local promotion for the Pontiac House. We went down and he did a show on the showroom floor at the Pontiac House in Lubbock.
Elvis did that?
Yeah, just to promote the show.
Was there a lot of girls throwing themselves at Elvis at that point?
Oh, yeah, boy. That's one of the main things that impressed us about him.
Now, was Elvis, do you think he was, well, how do I put this? Was he taking advantage of the fact that he had all these women?
As far as I know, he was. If he wasn't, he was really foolish.
He would have been an idiot not to, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was Elvis like? I know you probably didn't hang out a lot with him, but was he...
We hung out a little bit together. He was also, very confident, and I think when girls throw themselves at you like that, I think that kind of changes your perspective of yourself. I know one thing, he was very flashy. The first time I ever saw him perform, he wore like an orange jacket, red pants, and white bucks. Wow,
a little flamboyant, huh?
Really flamboyant.
And that's before that's before he had all the costumes and everything too.
Yeah, but put that in a pink Cadillac, man.
Yeah, and drive that on down to your dealer.
But just about make you sick.
Exactly. In 1956, you and Buddy Holly, along with Don Guess, you went to Nashville for the first time, I assume, and you guys recorded several songs for Decca Records.
Yeah, those songs, that was the first batch of records that we recorded, and those songs really didn't hit, and I was playing lead guitar on all those records, and they didn't even let Buddy play guitar. He just, they hired a couple of Nashville musicians. He just stood at the microphone and sang. I think that was a terrible mistake, and it proved to be wrong because he was such a powerful guitar player. That lead rhythmic style he had.
Now, when you played with Buddy, was there like an ego thing as far as Buddy dominating the guitar work, or was there like a big rift between you guys?
It turned into that kind of later. You know how kids are. We all thought we were the best.
Exactly.
And we had a little bit of an ego thing between us. And Buddy kind of wanted to start playing lead guitar, and he wanted to relegate me to the rhythm guitar. Over in the corner. So, but anyway, about that time, our problem was solved because Slim Whitman came through Lubbock, and he's an old country singer, and needed a rhythm guitar player, a lead guitar player. So I went on the road with him.
What was Slim Whitman like?
He was really a nice guy, As a matter of fact, he was a real big star in those days, and I was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time. And I'll never forget, I'd stand on stage, and I was very nervous playing with him, and he'd smile and look over at me and say, "Don't get nervous." He was a real gent. I really did like him.
So he might have looked over at you and yodeled, "Yodel, don't be nervous."
Yeah, he was a good yodeler, old
Slim. Sure was. How did you, obviously it was a sad, tragic event in rock and roll, but how did you deal with Buddy Holly's death?
Well, it was real sad and tragic. We were friends. He was not really a big star to us. And I, as a matter of fact, spent the night with Jerry Allison's parents, and I slept on the couch, and we'd just driven back from Clovis, New Mexico. We'd been over there doing some recording work at the Norman Petty Studios. And the lady across the street came across and delivered the sad news to us. And J.I. was still in bed, so it became my duty to go in and wake him up and tell him.
What a drag, man.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, yeah, another thing, too, recently the real Buddy Holly story was made, a documentary about Buddy's life, which I believe was produced by Paul McCartney?
Yes,
Okay, and you were in that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wrote the theme song. I actually wrote the song before the documentary was ever made. I wrote the song after I saw the movie back in whenever it came out. It was they had brought us down to Dallas to the premiere of that thing, and I just didn't really agree with it. And so I wrote the song that night after I left the movie.
So basically, once Hollywood gets its hands on a movie or a story, they change it. So was there a lot of differences between the real Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey compared to the one Paul McCartney produced?
Yeah, well, Paul made an effort to be accurate. Hollywood didn't. Gary Busey, I thought, did a real good Chuck Berry, but he didn't do Buddy Holly very well. And he also portrayed Buddy as being a real sloppy dresser, kind of a sloppy individual, which is 180 degrees from the truth, because Buddy was very immaculate and, pegged his Levi's and had every hair in place. And also it portrayed his parents as being really opposed to him being in rock and roll, which is 180 degrees in the truth, because they not only supported Buddy, but they supported all of us guys, and were really behind us saying, go get them, y'all are the best, and, that sort of thing.
And speaking of Paul McCartney of the Beatles, Paul once said that if it wasn't for the Crickets, there would not have been a Beatles. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. J.I., or Jerry Allison, he said once, if when he hears something like that, he says, "Would you please say that again? Excuse me, I didn't hear you just right."
That is incredible, man. Legends, I tell you, you're legends. Well, a lot of people might not know because a lot of the listeners are younger, but you're also a famous songwriter. You've done all kinds of commercials for people like McDonald's and Mattel. You've also written songs that people have recorded, and one of your most famous songs that a lot of people have heard is called "I Fought the Law." And I remember the Dead Kennedys did their own version of that. I wondered what you had to think about the Dead Kennedys doing "I Fought the Law."
I thought that, well, of course, anybody that does your song, that's really fine, okay with me, But the Dead Kennedys version was "I Fought the Law and I Won."
Oh, God, I love that. If that isn't rebellion,
they won,
they're rebelling.
Yeah, really.
And you also wrote the theme song for one of television's best-known anthems at the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that, too.
All right. Let's see. One other question I'd like to get with you. What are the Crickets up to today, Sonny?
We're doing a new album that's of fans and friends, that claim we influenced them along the way. and we're, we got Eric Clapton, Johnny Rivers, Waylon Jennings, Nancy Griffith, Graham Nash, Bobby V.
Jackson Brown's on that too,
Jackson Brown, we haven't done him yet, but, scheduling for these people is maddening, but we're going to try to get him done sometime at the end of this summer. This summer's over, so anyway, in the next week or so, we're going to try to get him. And
so what's it like working with Eric Clapton?
Eric is a gentleman and a great guitar player and singer. We haven't been friends for a long time, but he's a wonderful guy. I really enjoy working with him. And, you don't have to dilly-dally when you're working with Eric, man. He sings and plays those hot licks as he goes. No overdubbing with him, man. He's great.
He's definitely a respected character in the music scene.
Oh, yeah, as he well deserves to be.
Well, listen, Sonny, I got to wrap this up here, but I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to the Church of Rock and Roll listeners, and it's just incredible talking to a legend like yourself, man.
That's all right, Derek, and y'all have a good day, man.
You too, and you take care, and we'll be thinking about you, man.
Okay.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you have it.